the button is hit.
And it looks like we're live. My name is Jamie Adamchuk.
I'm Neil Thrussell.
And we are so incredibly proud today to have as a speaker Wayne Lee. Wayne is an entertainer. He's a hypnotist, and he knows just a little something about peak performance. Wayne, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure, and want to thank everybody that is taking part in this, is watching.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We had a quick discussion before we came on today. We were talking about boosting performance while having a blast. Can you share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. I should give you a little bit of the backstory. Is that I was a school teacher once upon a time, about 25 years ago. And I got into this as a hobby. I'd seen a hypnosis show in a nightclub. It blew my mind. I mean, if anybody has seen one, you know what I'm talking about, because I was skeptical. At the same time, I had seen my girlfriend at the time beside me get hypnotized. So I said, this is something I might want to learn. And I picked it up as a hobby, but I always had a fascination with the power of the mind and success and visualization. And so it grew into an obsession that became a career. And I did a lot of hypnosis shows along the way, as well as presentations. And what I realized is that, one, laughter is the best medicine. So people are learning the best when they're open, they're relaxed, they don't even know that they're learning. It's like they're in a state of hypnosis. It's just the most optimum state to be in. And it gets people to forget about their problems and focus upon what's at hand. And then two, I had a fascination and a desire to educate people on how to empower themselves, not for anybody else to do it. You know, we always need great people to inspire us and great information, but we ultimately have to come to the conclusion that we are the ones that have it all. We just have to take ownership, own it, and then start to create the life we desire. So it was a perfect blend for me to come to this point in my time where it's really teaching people how to boost their performance while having a blast. On stage, people get hypnotized to basically cross out any beliefs or self-doubt that they have, so they become the greatest dancer in the world. So they become an entertainer, so they become a celebrity. And the cool thing is that when you go off stage, the same doubts and fears that people have on stage are what can be removed so they can perform better. Performance is a really big umbrella to creating more health and happiness, to creating more money, more wealth. And those types of things were very apparent in terms of on-stage performance to off-stage performance. It's the same thing, just in a different arena. So it's been an exciting journey. And the cool thing is, I feel like I'm just getting started.
That's incredible. That's really beautiful to share that. And isn't that great about just being started, that feeling in itself, because it builds and builds and builds. It creates that momentum, that snowball that's rolling down the mountain. It's getting bigger and bigger because you're getting so many new skills, so many new tasks, really creating that success for yourself. And that brings us into that next question. We're wondering, can you share with us, with all our viewers, a little bit about what success is to you?
For sure. The first word that comes to mind when I hear the word success, it's freedom. So freedom is a freedom, so you're not a slave to money, you're not a slave to relationships, you're in a state of freedom. And what does that mean? For each person it's different, but I say the word freedom because it's the most simplest way I can describe success. Now for me, it's really having the amount of time that I want to spend with my family, with my friends, to have the money that I need to do that, but also the money that I need to share my passion. Money to me is about relationships. It's about building more of who I am and the passion that I have within, and not to please people, but to really live my passion on my terms and get that message out there so other people can do the same. Best way I can do that is create my ideal life. There's lots of other things to success, but that's it in a nutshell. Is freedom is key. And then the one other word that I would say is joy. And so living joyfully in all of the things that you do. We talked about it before, is that I created a little book called Life's Magical Meanings. And I truly believe that life is magic. You know, we live in this illusion, a lot of illusion. And we also have this really, really sacred inner magic, which allows us to create something out of nothing, out of ideas, out of desires, determination, the D's that you talk about. But the cool thing is life's made up on moments, and I like to call them magical moments. So the way I measure success is the more magical moments that I create in my life, the more success I have. And it's not about comparing to others. It's about fulfillment and magical moments. And we can all live magical moments every day. So when we do that, we're successful.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. So we all have natural tendencies to and our four four D's, desire, discipline, determination, and dedication. Are you more dedicated? Are you more disciplined? Are you a why person? What is it that keeps you, as some people would see you as highly successful? You know, you have shows all across the North America. So what keeps you in your peak performance of success?
The first number one would be desire. Is that I have a tremendous desire to do what I do, and I'm very blessed to have found it, to have owned it, and now just keep doing it. And like before I said, I feel like I'm just getting started. So years ago, something that I was involved in that was so fundamental what I'm doing now, it may not seem as though, because you're thinking, okay, how did this relate to this? But it was the sport of amateur wrestling. So the sport of amateur wrestling to me was like a passion. I mean, I was driven. I wanted to make the Olympics, and I never did. I did quite well, but I never made that mark. But I also knew that whatever I was going to do later on in life, I would have to have the same passion and desire. And for that very reason, I always kept an open mind. Like, teaching was good. I liked it, but there was something else out there for me. So that desire of tasting that pure intrinsic sense of passion, that was it for me. So to this day, I mean, I've failed many times doing what I'm doing, but it allows me to be successful, and it's just part of the game. But desire is it. I would say the next thing is determination, is never quitting. I mean, I just know if somebody said to me, well, you can always go back to teaching, and people have said that, I'm like, my head just goes for a spin, because I couldn't see myself doing anything else but this. I mean, if I did die today, I knew I would be doing what I love to do. So I'm a profound advocate of following your heart. I know that sounds very trite for people, but it is following your heart. And heart, here's an acronym I'll throw at you, is harmonious essence and real truth. So our heart is always the essence of who we are. Our mind is the guide. When we connect the head and the heart, our hands do the work.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I told you we would have fun on those.
So I can see Jamie, he's writing notes again. It's always, I'm like, okay, Jamie, what do you got?
Well, just really, seeing that, how that desire works in with that determination, seeing how those two work together. They complement each other. And hearing you say that, and especially sharing that beautiful acronym for heart, bringing it all together, that's amazing. Thank you. I'm capturing all this gold here. These are the true golden nuggets here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm just so glad that I can, add value to people who are listening, because I know the greatest way I can do that is live my state of joy, and that just emits a vibrational impulse, and that's a good thing. And I think that's why people need to be in a state of joy to inspire others. The one thing I wanted to comment with the dedication and discipline, and one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, said, life is tons of discipline. And I'll tell you, there is no two ways of getting around that. It is true as true can be. I mean, I thought maybe I could do this and I'll get, shortcut this. But discipline is about study. It's about, the dedication to do that. And I learned that so I think well in wrestling. And when I didn't do the work, wow, it kicked me in the butt. And the same thing in business, the same thing in life. So I can be the biggest pretender. I can be the biggest faker, and so I know that you can't get around those little habits that you got to create.
Yes, and to me, if I pick a D, it's always on the discipline, because it's something in society right now that is so negative. People have lost their stick-to-itness. They can be determined to go and get it, but it's raining out. I don't want to go do that. So to me, it's the discipline of just no matter what, you just got to go and do it. So,
I totally agree. And just to play on that too, Neil, is, Jim Rohn said, if you want to do something bad enough, you'll find a way. And then life is tons of discipline. So you got that desire. And if you really didn't do it, then you just didn't want it bad enough. But then you got to discipline yourself, where that means you put in that time and it becomes a habit. And I just see so many people that they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to put in that discipline, for sure.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful one. Go ahead, Neil.
No, I'm like, Jamie, go. You were looking to say something again.
Something came up earlier. You mentioned failing, and I've got a bit of an odd question here.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you like the most about failing?
Learning.
Love it. I love how quick that was. There was no hesitation there. Boom. The other thing that we want to share with our viewers is that, you know what? Failure isn't the end. Failure isn't where it stops. Failure is where it begins.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I will share a personal adversity. I consider it a failure because I wasn't awake to what was happening. But I'll share that here, and I've only told the story a few times. But it's very prevalent. I think there's a learning lesson if anybody could, be helped by hearing this. But in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, I found out that there was a leak in my business, and that leak was somebody stealing a large amount of money from me. And it was somebody that I trusted dearly for 7 years. So that was a big failure. That was a big aha moment. But I'll tell you what, I asked myself a couple questions, and these questions weren't easy to begin with to answer, but I said, what can I learn from this? And wow, I could learn a lot. I could definitely learn what I was not doing and what I needed to be doing in the business hands-on. I also knew that I needed to learn how to do certain things in the business that I didn't even have any idea of doing. And then what was I grateful for? Wow, was I ever grateful for having a family that, before I even said anything, they were right there willing to help me out in that situation. My wife, my kids, and very grateful for the fact we realized what was happening, because there was a lot of questions about what was happening. So that was a big adversity. And just to let you know how big it was, the person that did that, she's right now spending time in jail. So, but again, it's not a dramatic thing. It's just part of life. And it's like, well, I'll never let that happen to me again. Now moving forward, I went through that. So I can also understand what people go through in their business, and maybe the lack of diligence that they had that I had, because I needed to live that in order to now teach it more.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
So if I'm just someone starting and I have this desire, I really want to achieve something, what would you say to this person to encourage them to just go for it?
Write it down. Most people don't write it down, and I'm going to throw you another acronym for WRITE. WRITE is words released into transforming energy. And when you write that, and that's the right way. Jim Rohn said it again. I go back, bless his heart, in the sense of being such an inspirer and an influencer in the world. But he says, it's not that hard. Decide what you want and write it down. It's so true. We talk about it all the time, but a lot of people, in fact, don't write it down. So it really depends, Neil, on where people are in that journey. But even the best of us in terms of these, goal setters and these planners, they just sometimes don't write the stuff down. So that's the first step, is decide it and write it down, but do it from a place of joy, from a place of excitement, because as soon as people try to get too anal about it, and then they're in that state that doesn't feel good. And that right there is in a state of doubt. That's always your greatest indicator of your emotional or your feeling state, which I always talk about is our GPS, or Great Programmable Subconscious. That's the acronym for that. Yeah. Is really letting us know at any given time, all the time, throughout the day, that how we feel is the voice of our GPS, lets us know that we're on course. This sounds very simple, but when we feel good, we're aligned to who we really are. And we're on course, sending out, emitting a vibration that then is attracting the people, places, things, events, opportunities, as if by magic. The magic is you being fully connected to it.
Yes.
That's wonderful. If you could share with us, I'd be curious. You mentioned about people, sometimes they're not in those resourceful states. They're not in that great place. They're writing it down. Of course, when you're taking these notes, when you're writing it down, when you're getting it into that subconscious, what are some skills or tools that you could give us or share with our viewers that could get them into that great place, so that when writing this, it creates that beautiful connection?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think that when people think about two things too much, they're too much in their head and they're not enough in their body. So I'll say, go for an exercise, go for a workout, go do something that just gets your body moving. Because, to this day, no one has really proved that our body and mind are not one. Our brain is one thing, but our body and mind, who knows? So I think that we're all connected. In fact, I think everything's really an illusion except the oneness of who we are. But the paradox is that it's the university of diversity. We need to own that difference, the uniqueness. So get your body moving, get those electrons, get those ions just, circulating, and then go to do it. So whatever you have to do that, do that. The step that I teach people, and I think this is a step that first I learned in wrestling because I always visualized a lot. But I realized that when I visualized, I would move my body, it would be visceral, and I would feel it. So I call this step pretending. If you notice, the G is goal setting, write it down. The P, GP, is pretending. Kids do this exceptionally well. They pretend. If you look at intend, it's what you want. You have to pretend it. But a lot of times going, I'm visualizing. Well, what kind of state are you in when you do that? If you truly believe that you've just achieved your goal, you are bubbling and percolating with success. I call it bliss. That's one thing that people can do to pre-pave the way, taking 5-10 minutes out of their day just to pretend as if they've achieved it. But this takes skill because a lot of people won't get them in that state of like, wow, I did it. Because they don't think it'll work.
Because it's stupid. People will laugh at me.
Yeah. It's the pretending is a very important part. I mean, I've created a whole exercise that I've done for 20 years called the Magical Color Association, where people will think of, they get into that point where they feel as though they've achieved their goal. Obviously, they had to use their imagination, which is the map of your GPS. And they get so elated that they then attach a color to that feeling. And usually it's the color, whatever just pops into their mind. And we can go into a different, whole other discussion on the chakra and the energy levels. But that color that pops into their mind is usually an indicator of also some of the stuff that they have to work on in terms of owning their power or clearing blockages. But more than that, they also do a physical movement by putting their hand to their heart. So now they have 2 triggers to create a discipline. And they can use that anytime, anywhere, just to feel good. Because ultimately, I've come to the conclusion of what my why is. And it can be summed up by this. The why for me is to help people feel good for no good reason.
Very good.
Because so many people think they need a reason, but I think it's our natural state, our birthright of joy, but we've been negatively programmed into doubt, fear, and worry. So this is the one exercise that people can use, and it takes 5 minutes. Every presentation and every show that I do, I leave the people with this exercise. And I just even got an email here the other day from a university presentation that I did. And the lady said, or the girl who's probably in her 20s said, that 5 minutes changed my life. So don't want to be over dramatic, but you never know when you're making a difference for somebody.
Yes.
I love that. That's beautiful. You touched on something that's really near and dear to my heart, is that why. Understanding the why. I mean, goal setting, we talk about goal setting, seeing that outcome, seeing that end outcome. But if you don't have that strong enough why, what the purpose is behind it, I mean, the how doesn't matter. The how will manifest itself. It's the why. Why is this important? Why is this an outcome, an absolute must? So thank you for sharing that. That's just critical.
You betcha. I mean, even Jim Rohn says, you need to have enough reasons, right? First, and that's the why. Like, what are your reasons? What's your motivation? And the book with Simon Sinek in terms of, that has been such a popular one because it's the why. I mean, it's the trend, not only the trend, I think it's the truth that people need to know what their why is. And it's very simple. It doesn't have to be your vision statement. It's just, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And, I see, laugh often, that is so much a part of what I'm all about, is getting people to be in an uplifting, funny state. And would you believe that I have an acronym for why?
Shoot it at us.
And it also includes the heart, which we already talked about. So why, WHY, is wonderful heart's yearning.
Sweet.
There's always the desire, the yearning that we have, and we've come here, I believe, with an individual print, an individual soul print, and that is what we've come to discover. And joy and yearning is always letting us know where to follow and what to follow.
So Wayne is graciously shared with us so many of these acronyms, so I'm just going to blank. So how do our viewers get this book? Where do they need to go and get the book?
Well, you know what? It's sold out. My goodness. I don't even have any copies left because it's just been a hot item over the last 20 years or 15 years. But I will be reprinting. If you just go to waynelee.com, shoot me an email, I'll put you on the waiting list. I do have an electronic book that it's something that I've been giving out. So even if people want that, they can go to my website, shoot me an email. Again, it's my passion. I mean, from one of the first days of me doing this, I knew I was going to create a book, and I wanted to have 1 million people have it in their hands. And so it's still a goal. I mean, there's thousands of them out there, but not 1 million yet. So maybe everyone can help me do that and spread the word and spread the love. Oh, love is life's one valuable expression.
So it should be Wayne Acronym Lee.
Yeah, I might have to change it.
Excellent. One of the other things that you've really touched on here as well, Wayne, is it's really our 5th D. It's that secret, not so secret D, and that's dojo. And you've talked a lot about self here today, and that's really what that dojo is, the dojo of self. How to get your body in that peak state. I relate it back to getting on an airplane. So you get on the airplane, you're sitting down, they run through the safety demonstration. As soon as the little yellow mask drops down, who do you put it on first? You put it on yourself first. And that's really what the dojo is, looking after self, whether it's through proper supplementation, proper food, proper mindset. And that's something that you've really touched on here today. Yes. And did you want me to, are you asking me if you want me to expand on the dojo part of things? We'd love you to. And I think that's a great word for it, because it's out of martial arts, in the sense of the dojo and our sacred space, and what do we do to create the disciplines. And for me, there's a few that come to mind. One is exercise. So I need to be doing, and I'll be the first one to admit, there's times and seasons where I'm not as diligent, not as disciplined, but I always go with my body and what it feels. And I also know that my wife and I are on the same page, where we check in and making sure that, that's important, the support mechanism of a spouse or a partner like that. But, if I'm doing my workouts, I will be focused doing it in the morning before anything happens, because 1, the kids aren't up. 2, I'm not on calls or Zoom calls like this, where I can get sidetracked very easily. So today I didn't get it in. So now it's like, okay, am I going to get it in? Well, hold me to accountability, and but the thing is that I know for sure if I get that workout in, 20 minutes, if it's, even just a run, or a T25, or 45 minutes if it's a weight workout, nothing outrageous, but just to keep me going, because some of my greatest ideas come when I'm running, and some of my greatest feelings come when I'm exercising. So that's a peak performance discipline. I just know that a lot of people have definitely talked about that. I'm an advocate of doing that. Also, the other thing is spending time on what I love to do, like some writing. I'm always taking notes. I'm always journaling. So that would be one that I really think is important, is journaling. And journaling doesn't mean a set way of what am I grateful for. That could be it, but it's writing down my ideas. It's not letting these thoughts and these inspirations just go by the wayside, but making sure I have something to write them down. And that keeps me fresh, because whatever I'm focused upon, it just inspires me to do more. So that would be the 2. Also, eating half decently, not fanatically, but eating. When I'm on the road, I tend to, make sure that I'm not just eating junk. But again, I'm not a fanatic, so keeping things in check, because I don't want people to get the impression that it's like so rigid and so disciplined, because for me, that's just not my thing. So it's really about a balance. It is. It's about a balance of doing things, and also realizing that, this week alone, I've got like 4 events right in a row. Like tomorrow I'm on a plane, then I'm back, I take a red eye, but I get charged, I get pumped. So the biggest thing I could say is, whatever you're doing, do what you love. Like that feeds me. So that's such a big part, without putting a lot of structure to it, but the 2, couple structure things is working out in the morning, eat good, follow a game plan that makes you feel charged. And then also too, I also know, maybe it's me getting older too, because I'm almost 50, and I'm not saying I feel very vibrant, but getting the sleep in too. I know that there's a lot of people that are burnt out because they're not sleeping enough. And so
Can't, how could you say, take it like I used to where we could go all night. So there's a time to recharge. There's a time to recharge, and you have to do that time. And that also means a little bit of meditation or some visualization every day.
Beautiful. What I love is that you put exercise first, because when I ask you for that one tip that we could share with our viewers of to get them in that peak state, by you doing this right first thing in the morning, you're getting up, you're exercising, you're instantly putting yourself into that peak state for the entire day. I mean, that seems like a pretty good recipe for creating that success in oneself.
I think so. I mean, I can talk from my own experience. And again, some of the greatest things, like when I run in the river valley here, I'm just so connected to nature, and some of those ideas that come to me, I have to like have my phone with me to make sure I'm writing all the notes down because they come so quick.
Beautiful. That's outstanding. Neil, did you have anything that you wanted to get in there for us?
Too many things. I'm like, lost my focus. No.
On the count of 3, you'll find your focus. Fix your focus.
So how do you find, if you're talking about your balance, so you're doing all of these things. Many people are fine, especially you've got a profession that requires you to leave your family behind. How do you find the balance for you with your family? How do you make the time?
Yeah, it's about, Neil and Jamie, it's about creating my ideal life. There was a point in time before I had a wife, before I had the kids, obviously, I was doing 300 shows a year. I mean, that was my thing. I would be doing all the major fairs. I'd be doing, you name it, I would take it. And then I really transitioned into what is my ideal. It looked like about 60 to 70 events, and at a particular fee, having this time. So I have more time now than I did back then. So first of all, you just need a plan to do that. You need that vision to do it, and then to start filling the blanks. So for me, it's about some shifts. And one was about giving up certain things that I was doing in terms of the business, in terms of the nightclubs. That's what I first let go of. But I also believe that there's a paying the price. That some people want to jump into things and they want to just be instantly successful. Well, ask any Olympian or a gold medalist about that. Ask any really successful business owner about that. I mean, there's no, again, we go back to the discipline. So for me, it's outlining what I want to do, letting go of the things that I don't want to do. And then with the corporate market now, I'm on the road for a couple of days and then I'm back home. And believe it or not, 9 to 5, I'm here with the kids. I'm in this office. We have more freedom to do those things now and more opportunities, but it's about owning it and then working towards it.
Thank you. What I heard a little bit in there was you mastered your craft, got really good at it, and then from there you were allowed to build your freedom, and you purposely designed your life around it after you've mastered your craft, and no situation could throw you off.
Yeah, I think it's called writing your own ticket. Yeah, you write your own ticket, because in this market now, there's not a lot of guys and gals that are doing kind of what I'm doing. There's only a few that I've studied that are they were masters, they were great. So gladly I can follow what they've done and pick and choose and learn from them. But really, doing a message with what I'm doing as far as a hypnosis show and having a message that captivates people for 90 minutes. I'm no longer the hypnotist. I'm Wayne Lee. They need this guy. So it's about building it in that direction, which I've always loved, to have the education with the entertainment. But it's an art, it's a science, and it takes years of studying it from the best. But it's about writing your ticket. So now, here's 60 to 75 shows, which is my ideal. Well, in 5 years, it's going to be 20 to 25 with a brand called Life is Magic, where I'm doing my own events, as well as being able to go deeper with people, having online programs. So that's the next ideal. There's always what's the next, but enjoying the journey, because you never get to that point where it's all done.
Yes, thank you. Because what I've discovered about successful people is that they're successful right here, right now in this moment, but there is always another level. They're always learning, they're always trying to better themselves, and they always have another goal that will stretch them even further than that they thought possible.
I totally agree, Neil. I think that's so correct. And I also think in my own experience, I look at people that are like billionaires or multi-millionaires, which obviously lets you know that I'm not one of those. And for me to wrap my head around that, I'm like, whoa. So if I can't even get in that mindset, I'm probably not going to be one of those. Does that make sense? It first starts in the mind. But the people that think at that level, they also are just like you and I and anyone else out there that's going, what's next? Because there's a yearning, there's a desire to go to the next level. And so I tell people is that, you know, comparing to other people can be really detrimental in terms of you just feel bad about yourself. Inspired by other people to see what's possible, but then realizing that you're the person that's got to play that game and you're the best player on the field.
Yes.
Incredible.
I had you guys in a trance there for a second.
You did. We were listening. We were right there, totally in trance there.
1, 2, 3, wake up.
It's like we are here. We are present. We are in the now.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what, Wayne? You've spent some incredible time with us. You've given us some incredible jewels, some incredible tools that we can go out and use in our life. If there was one thing, only one thing that you could share with us, that we could share with all of our viewers, one thing that's going to make that biggest difference on everyone's path to getting that success, and only one thing, what would that be?
Be grateful every day. Yeah. I am as guilty as anyone else about focusing upon what's not there, what's wrong, what's the next thing, and it's that emptiness. But when you're grateful right now, as you're listening to this, and you pick one thing that you're grateful for, and we're all grateful for something, that is a feeling of joy. Joy is the jewel of you, the jewel of you, and success. It really is about being grateful. I've studied all the greats in terms of success, and I'll tell you, you can't get away and can't get around being grateful. And let's face it, we all want to feel that. So why not do that now?
That's right. Step into it right now, because I've heard through some of my teachers and stuff too, when you're in that space of gratitude, when you're in that space of joy, nothing else can exist in that. There's no negativity. There's no negative feelings. It's filled with gratitude. Practice it. I practice it every morning. I imagine you do something very similar to that, and it enhances the life that we live.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, my kids, we do it at the dinner table now. We're like, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And, you know, they get to the point where they're like, well, I'm not going to do this. And I don't force them to do that, because I also know that when you're doing this, there's a resistance. But as soon as my wife and I start sharing, and then the other kids start sharing, the other guys, all right, my little guy comes in and he's raring to go. So it's like, how do you influence that? But I'll tell you, when you are in that state of gratitude, it then attracts more success.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so very much for your time today. We sincerely appreciate you making this time. I know you're a very busy man. You've got all these shows going on, but we sincerely both want to really thank you and honor you for taking out this time. Thank you, Wayne.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Wayne.